What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Redriveraviation. Hope you're on a fantastic day today. And today we have a very critical piece of aviation news here for you all. I really hope each and every one of you are excited for today's video. And without any further delay, let's go ahead and get started, everybody. Southwest's first quarter 2024 results have arrived, and let's just say that they're in the gutter. There's no way around it. So today I thought I would talk about the implications that this has, not only for Southwest, but the whole aviation industry. They are pulling out of 4 stations, so we will talk about that as well. We'll talk about their stock, and we'll also talk about some of their future plans and kind of some, gray spaces that are kind of interesting. I'm ready to dive into these to get an analysis going here. So I really hope all of you are excited for this. Let's go ahead and dive into the news, guys. So Southwest Airlines cutting 4 destinations, several frequencies are going to be chopped going forward into 2025. Boeing delivery issues with the Boeing 737 MAX, open seating may change, in-flight purchases. We have a bunch of different really talking points to discuss here, and this has been quite an interesting situation. So we'll go ahead and dive into this New York's Time article, as I thought they did a really good job after we take a look at the Southwest Airlines stock. So I'm briefly going to describe to you kind of this timeline here of the last 6 months, and then this report will make a little bit more sense. So Southwest kind of really low here in October. This is not unusual. I'll even throw the 5-year on here. You can see after the summer is really where they crashed, excluding the pandemic situation. But you can see here very similar results here in December of 2021, very similar results here in September of October of 2022, very similar results coming through here in 2023. So that takes us to the 6-month graph where they started to rise a little bit again. This is not unusual, especially for a difference of $3 to $4. So that's what started to happen. And then we got a critical piece of news here that they had fuel, labor cost, and some other capacity outlooks. So not a huge adjustment, but that would end up coming into this drop right here, but again, only by dollars, so not too much there. But then we start to have this massive rise here in February, and that is with the relative strength there of the key threshold, which was quite awesome to see. So that continued to rise all the way up here to its about peak here in the middle of February when it was at $34. And then they had some stock news that wasn't good. And then when the Boeing news about them getting shorted, I think it was like 20 or 30 planes for this year, 2024, came out, their stock went from 34.83 all the way down to, we'll call it 28.11 within, 2-3 days or about a week or so, which is just insane to think about. So massive crash here due to that. And then the stock kind of just, floated for a while. It went down a little bit more, but didn't really change very much. And then finally started to climb a decent amount again. And then we got the news of the first quarter results for Southwest, and that dropped it another $2, which for a $27 stock is not particularly ideal. So why don't we dive into these details so this all makes a little bit more sense. So Southwest quits 4 airports in cost-cutting drive and expecting fewer deliveries from Boeing than ever before, and as such, significant changes had to be achieved. So let's go ahead and dive into this article, again by the New York Times. I appreciate them writing this and keeping us all in the loop on this airline news. So let's go ahead and dive into the details, guys. Once the scroller works, probably gonna have to use the sidebar. Here we go. It's written by J. Edwards Morneau, hopefully I said that right. But Southwest Airlines is ceasing operations at 4 airports and reducing flights from others in an expense to cut cost, as the growth plans were also curtailed, hopefully I said that right, by fewer than expected plane deliveries from Boeing. The airline, which flies the 737, of course, has major problems with delays, and bad aircraft manufacturers contributed to the struggles. They reported to Southwest that is a loss of $231 million for the first quarter of 2024, which was much worse than or I guess we can just say worse than the analysis expected, sending its share price down 10% in early trading, which was that $2 that I just told you about. I contributed this to several factors for Southwest. Number one, you can't continue to give out these $39 sales. It's just not going to work. The average load factor, to my knowledge, that Southwest needs for a plane to successfully go out is about 80%. If they get 80, then they're usually profiting, especially with all those late bookers that make a purchase on tickets. Well, you just got to, that's got to end. And additionally, to go along with that, some of these stations just struggle during this time of the year. Look at like Chicago Midway, St. Louis, even like a Baltimore, for example. Some of these just struggle. I mean, obviously it's offsetted a little bit by stations like Phoenix, Las Vegas, Orlando, and others. But at the same time, Midway is a huge operation. St. Louis is a huge operation. Denver, even though they still have an essential hub and spoke there, even that could sacrifice a little bit due to less point-to-point travelers and just in general, not as much traffic. So, that's another one. And then really, it all comes back to the Boeing issue, as we've talked about. So it's a huge loss. American also reported a significant loss as well. So definitely worth noting right there. To cut costs, they'll cease operations in early August at Bellingham International Airport in Washington State, Cozumel International Airport in Mexico, the George Bush Houston Intercontinental Airport in Houston, and the Syracuse Hancock International Airport. Significant restructure will also take place at major airports, notably reducing flights at Hartsfield, Jackson, Atlanta, and Chicago O'Hare International Airport. So super sorry to Syracuse, first and foremost, Syracuse Aviation, that is, because I know that he was very happy with the Southwest operation, which hopefully maybe they'll come back in the future. But I mean, these are some of their lower frequency stations. Bellingham only usually has like 4 or 5 flights a day. Cozumel 1 or 2. George Bush was kind of surprising considering that they probably have, I'm guessing, like at least 10 or 15 flights out of there. I'd have to double check, but they at least have a handful for sure, at least over 5. And then Syracuse, of course, I think had 4 daily. I think they had 3 Baltimore and a Orlando service. This is surprising. Reducing flights at other stations like Atlanta. I'll talk about that more in a moment. And same for O'Hare, which I didn't realize got significantly chopped. So we'll have to take a look at that here in the future. And then their chief executive, Bob Jordan, said that in an interview that the decision to exit those airports was unrelated to the delays in receiving new Boeing planes, although those delays were causing other problems. So, the byproduct of what's happening certainly has an effect on this. So going into some detail about talking about the network, very painful, and it's really unfortunate. And this all really started when the Alaska Airlines 737 MAX 9 had the door blow off in flight, which really started the quality control issues once again for the Boeing 737 MAX. There's been some other issues as well. Southwest was expecting to get 20 new Boeing jets this year, and it was expecting to get 46. So it was 26 planes that they just got completely, I hate to say screwed on, but that's really what happened, until these quality control issues get under control. And this will continue to present significant challenges for both 2024 and 2025, Mr. Jordan said. So the airline will also limit hiring with 2,000 fewer employees, and this is to plan to put fewer planes out of service than previously planned. So that mainly encompasses their Boeing 737-700 fleet, as they will slow down the retirement on those until these Boeing 737 MAX aircraft get it together. And Boeing also reported a $355 million loss in the first quarter, and that was a huge step back from what analysis expected. And even though the travel demand does remain robust, the manufacturer of Boeing still has to continue to work out these issues, and Airbus will continue to thrive in this situation. Here's the American Airlines loss. They lost $312 million in Q1 2024. I don't know how it was that bad. I know they've been selling some lower tickets, but I wouldn't have expected it to be $312 million. That's a terrible number, so it's really unfortunate to see that. It does look like Alaska and United did do a little bit better here in the first 3 months of the year, which is great, even with the Boeing 737 MAX 9 issues. And then Delta actually reported a profit, so that's pretty awesome to see for Delta Airlines and for how much they charge on their tickets. One would hope that that would be the case. So yeah, really interesting article here. I think it brings up several really great key points here about the Southwest, I hate to say dumpster fire, but there's really no good way to phrase what's going on right now. And this impacts several sectors of the aviation field. Let's talk about those employees again. You got to think about ramp agents. You got to think about the restructuring of crews, flight crews and flight attendants, and, your gate agents. So there's so many positions. And then, less flights means less dispatchers needed. Less flights means less analysis positions needed. Less flights also means less, what was the word I was looking for? Dispatchers, analysis operations personnel. So it certainly speaks volumes about these current situations. I do also want to talk about some of these future schedules that they just announced. So this also came with their extension of the schedule through February and some of March or really January, February, and some of March 2025. They have made some significant changes. I'll use some local examples to give you the best understanding possible from my perspective. So one route from Tulsa has been either seasonally discontinued or permanently. Hopefully, let's hope it's a seasonal discontinuation, but Chicago Midway was removed from the schedule as a daily flight. It's not even here on Saturdays. This comes after some really rough numbers in 2023 during the same period. Hopefully this will improve in the future, but I do attribute this to pretty bad times and also flying 737-800s on it on some days, which can't really afford to do that on a route like Midway. January 2024 load factors were 40%, which is abysmally bad. So hopefully it will improve, but between overlap with St. Louis and terrible times, you can't really get around it. So I think most of that does fall on Southwest's limited ability to have flexibility in their schedule. What I mean by this is the plane really needs to probably leave either earlier in the morning or later in the day. 1-2 p.m. is really a great time that isn't going to function very well for the passengers that are trying to go on from Midway and obviously, the point to point. And then again, the overlap with St. Louis, when you have those two large operations functioning together, with all the overlap in the networks for those connecting passengers, you can't expect to fill all that. So Midway going to a summer seasonal, I would not be upset about that. In fact, I think that would be a good choice, but we'll have to wait for more information, and there is a chance that will get loaded on at a later time. But again, this could just be to the restructure of the current situation. But Tulsa really wasn't as affected as bad as some other airports. The Oklahoma City Will Rogers World Airport lost 4 destinations on a daily basis. Some of them do remain on Saturdays and Sundays, but it's certainly not all 7 days a week. That's going to be Atlanta, Orlando, Nashville, and San Antonio. All of those have been dropped down to Orlando's not even going to be served during this period as of right now, could change, and then the others are operated on Saturdays or Sundays, which is a huge change. San Antonio makes a bunch of sense. I was pretty surprised about the Atlanta pullout because of continuity. Yeah, that's what they were just talking about there on the restructure, so that probably happened to several destinations, even like Omaha, some other airports. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. I'm sure they intend to operate pretty well in the summer, but in the winter they're just done with it, which I can't blame them because you can't have all this overlap. And then the other two, Orlando, very surprising, but with how expensive it is to operate out of Orlando, not completely a shock, just like you would expect to at least operate on Saturdays, which they won't even be doing that. And then Nashville, it's kind of a weird one because that will finally be going daily for the first time there this summer. However, it won't be operated at all, actually on Saturdays and Sundays rather. So I don't know what their intentions were, but in the initial December schedule, that was a daily flight. So I'm assuming that was intended to be a daily flight all the way through the winter, but maybe not. But anyway, still some major changes, and I can certainly assure that Atlanta and San Antonio were going to be daily flights as they have been for a while. So yeah, some interesting changes. This will probably change even more. I don't expect them to be added back for this period, but we'll know more as their next schedule extension will come out on August 1st, 2024, and that will give us another month of information. So their real intentions, I think, will be noted here. However, this could all get restructured earlier than what expected, but I would expect this time frame right here, January and February 2025, to have its final restructure sometime in September, October, November of this current year, 2024. So we'll get more information on that later, but what I'm really trying to prove here is that yes, they're making significant cuts long term if this is the plan. We'll see if they add back more later, but this is like a third of their network, and it's not just Tulsa and Oklahoma City getting these cuts. There's several other airports that are losing anywhere between 2 and 8 daily flights. So, I mean, they're certainly making significant cuts. And that goes for the mid-sized airports. The hubs, I'm sure, losing several daily flights, dozens of which. So I also thought I'd mention that they did send an email out to their customers that had flights through these airports. I actually was planning a Houston George Bush day trip in the fall, so I was directly impacted. So here's how they handled these situations. So kind of cool to get this. So it talks about the pullout of the 4 cities. Here's the original itinerary and what they're attempting to rebook on. And they also are going to be giving a 2 Love vouchers worth $100 each, which I'm not sure because I did actually have 2 itineraries planned as one as a backup. So I don't know if that's $200 total or $400, but nevertheless, that's really cool that they're offering vouchers for this inconvenience. So good job on that, Southwest. Despite losing all this money, you do have to compensate your passengers for major changes like this. And I do applaud Southwest with their efforts in this department. So no doubt that Southwest is in the gutter right now. I really don't know how they'll be able to, the Boeing issue is the biggest problem. Now, I really attribute this when the second fatal incident happened with the Southwest 737, or sorry, not the Southwest, my bad, with the Lion Air 737 MAX. That's when I was Southwest, would have fully got out of the Boeing 737 MAX because there were so many good options at that time, despite the lack of, mechanics and the other facilities. Like the Airbus A220s really came on. There's plenty of places in the United States to get maintenance done on that. I think it would have been worth the transition to move over to a more reliable aircraft at that time. Another one would include the E2. I know it's really limited in the US right now, but the E2 has a really good seating capacity and very efficient. So that would have been a neat aircraft for Southwest to move over to. There's so many logistics that go into moving a full aircraft family and also not operating the same aircraft anymore. I know Allegiant's going to be in that process for the next few years with their change to the Boeing 737 MAX, ironically enough. But, it really shows where Southwest is right now. Relying on one aircraft family can be certainly challenging. Now, this is why they're in the position they're in, where they don't have to charge for check bags, don't have to charge for other amenities, is because they are in a situation where, due to the commonality, they don't have to have all these other expenses on major, simulator costs and mechanics, different parts, so many factors that go into why only having one aircraft type is so beneficial. But the byproduct of that is if you put too much trust into this aircraft type, which, 737s have been great for years until the Boeing 737 MAX situations arose. I can understand why Southwest would continue to have this trust, but even after that second incident, you really get your head shaken, because at that point you only have so many of these 737 Maxes. It would be reasonable to get out, but Southwest did stick it through and made it to the long-term option. Now you can see the byproducts. Now, this isn't the end of the world. Southwest obviously is not going out of business anytime soon and probably never will, but it is worth noting that what if Southwest does decide to change to the A220 halfway through this process when that second Lion Air incident happened? What does happen if they explore their options and maybe even add a second aircraft type? They're financially in a position where they probably can make that happen. Whether it would be for the best or not, who knows? But you have to think about them exploring their options, and I'm sure they did, and I'm sure they did settle on the MAX because they already had so many plans in place with the the mechanics and the various maintenance facilities, and all of what they've done for so long. So financially, it probably still does make sense that even if you do have a situation like this, stay patient throughout the process. However, it does always make me wonder, what if they did go to the 220 or another aircraft type? So I'm sure they'll be fine. They'll pull it together. It's just really interesting to note all these various situations right now, and I definitely thought it was worth talking about here. So I would definitely like to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Southwest will get out of the gutter? Let me know. And if so, what do you think it will take for them to do just that? I'm sure they will. I don't know how long it's going to take for them to do so, but hopefully they'll be able to get out of there here in the near future. So I really appreciate all you watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to let me know in the comments. I'd love to do more of these, so let me know. But nevertheless, that'll do for today's video, everybody. But thank you all so much for watching. I want to thank each and every one of you for watching. My name is Redriveraviation. Take it easy, everybody. Stay safe. Trust the process. Do you love and love you do. My name is Redriveraviation. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all soon as Redriveraviation is signing off.